You may be wondering why I decided to start reviewing a cartoon. Well, for one, Wakfu is video game related. C, it's based off of an MMO that only French people play. And secondly, besides the latest TMNT cartoon, there are very few action cartoons out in Japan. Luckily, this doesn't seem to be the case for France though, which still makes popular action cartoons to this day. If by now you couldn't tell by the opening music, this is a French cartoon. Like Japan, France has its own animation industry, both for children and adults. In fact, the French produce some of the best 2D animated films and cartoons. For some reason though, French cartoons have never been nearly as popular in the States as anime! Yeah, and manga! Frog fanboying aside though, let's actually talk about the cartoon. The series follows a band of adventurers on their travels. This includes the main character Hugo, a kind boy who recently found out he had the magical power to create portals. An empty-headed adventurer named Tristapin who seeks battle and adventure above all things while wielding a demonic sword that spends its time spouting wisecracks. A not elf with nice hips, a not druid with nice hips, and a greedy old man. These characters travel across what is known as the World of 12, generally saving the village of the week, getting into soccer matches, and trying to stop a mysterious villain from doing what at first glance seems to be generic bad guy stuff. I've heard some people say that Wakfu is like the French version of Avatar: The Last Airbender. In some ways I could see this. While it definitely feels different, they both have a few similarities. The average episode normally involves the characters arriving in a new place, seeing a problem like, say, a bad guy terrorizing a village, and fixing it. Almost always with a few nice fight scenes in between. Of course, there are very different shows. For example, Wakfu is more episodic than Avatar. By that I mean there are many episodes where it feels like the plot hasn't been moved forward in any meaningful way at all. For example, does Wakfu really need 5 Boofball episodes? The reason it has so many episodic episodes is because the channel Wakfu aired on. France 3 wanted to have the ability to air the cartoon in any order they wanted, so new viewers wouldn't be confused. Even when this does happen to be the case though, each episode is enjoyable to watch just because you get to see a little more of the world the characters inhabit. And that is what I consider to be one of the strongest selling points of Wakfu. Because Wakfu is based off of a MMO series, the world and lore is quite deep, and thankfully unique for what could have been a generic fantasy setting. On a side note, I believe this makes Wakfu one of the only good cartoons based on a video game.
Hey! Excuse me, princess!
To give the basics of Wakfu lore, their world is called the World of 12. It's called this because of the 12 gods that rule over it, and with each god there is a race of people who worship that god. Now, at first that might sound like a generic fantasy setting, but it does a lot to differentiate itself. For one, the different races are still all human, just that the more a person worships a certain god, the more that person will start to look like that god. What I'm basically saying is, I'm not a furry for liking this. It has a tail and fur, sure, but it's a human, see? Human! Now that that's clarified, let's continue talking about the lore. The creators thought they were clever by having the names of the races be little hints to what the different races do or are like. For example, the race that can slow or bend time are called the Zellers, which is reverse for Rolex. The pointy-eared race that shoots from a bow and arrow are called Kra, which is reverse for arc, like a bow. The adventurous sword-wielding DPS race is called Iop, which of course sounds like Yop, a popular French yogurt that the name was based on. Wait, what? What I consider to be the greatest thing about Wakfu is its animation. The first thing you might have noticed about Wakfu is, hey, this is made in Flash! The second thing you may have noticed is, hey, this is made in Flash! And doesn't look like complete garbage! The reason for this is simple: time and money. Flash gets a bad name because it allows animators to make quick and easy animation with no effort. And it definitely shows in many cases, but that doesn't have to be the case. There are many examples of Flash being used well, but again it requires time and money. Wakfu has cost the company millions to produce, and has never directly made a profit. I know this makes it sound like the cartoon is a failure, but it isn't the case. In fact, partly due to obsessive fans like me, the series is going to get a 3rd season on Netflix. Not only that, but the series has a spin-off cartoon, which itself has a movie. Oh, and there are even OVAs made by Studio Ghibli as well. The reason why this series hasn't been considered a failure is because it was an advertising tool for the MMO, comics, and other Wakfu merchandise. And it seems to have worked extremely well. With Season 3 only a few months away, and Wakfu now on Netflix, I would definitely recommend giving it a try. Just make sure not to watch the dubbed version, okay?
Amalia? Il peut pas avoir disparu comme ça.